Hi, I'm Hedrick Smith. We're in the home stretch of a presidential campaign. Time to separate fact from fiction, to cut through the campaign hype and focus on the track record. Let's go back to 2016 and see what Donald Trump promised the American electorate and how he's performed. Let me take you back to Ottumwa, Iowa in January 2016. He was campaigning in rural America as the champion of the common man against Wall Street, lacerating Hillary Clinton as the puppet of Wall Street. They pull her strings, he said. I know Wall Street, said the man from Manhattan. I'm not going to let Wall Street get away with murder. And then a year later, at his inauguration, he promised a glorious Trump utopia for the American middle class, lifting everybody in the working class and rural America out of their economic stagnation and picturing the return of about 8 million lost manufacturing jobs. Let me read you his exact words. He said, we're going to rebuild our wealth, we're going to rebuild our dreams, and we're going to start to build new roads and highways and bridges and airports and tunnels and railways all across our wonderful nation. We'll get our people off welfare and back to work. So what happened? Well, it was a bit of a bait and switch. Within a year, he was back in bed with Wall Street, letting them get away with murder. Remember that $1.5 trillion tax cut? Well, it was a financial bonanza for Wall Street, for the financial elite, and the captains of corporate America. But Trump never pushed for all those big middle-class jobs by investing in rebuilding America's aging and broken infrastructure. And here we come again to Corona, and Wall Street and the financial elite are flying high, and working-class Americans and the real economy is in pain, and people are hoping for another bailout. Now, in fairness, Trump did keep some of his promises, even if he didn't go after Wall Street. For the ideological and evangelical right, he moved the Supreme Court and the rest of the federal court system to the right by appointing a slew of conservative justices. For the anti-global right, he pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord and Obama's nuclear agreement with Iran. And for the nationalistic right, he cracked down on immigration, stopped those families from coming from Central America, separated the kids from their parents, and sent them back to Guatemala and Honduras and those places. And he even managed to build a few more barriers along the border with Mexico, though he never got the Mexicans to put up even a peso to help build the wall, as he had promised. But what's really kind of surprising, given the fact that Trump is making the economy the ticket to his reelection, is the one place where he seemed to welch the most was actually on the economy. Maybe you've forgotten, but Trump promised to have national growth at 4 or 5% a year. What was the track record? 2%, 2%, a little over 3%, and then the Corona bust. He said he would balance the budget. No way. Didn't even come close. Deficits rose incredibly, up to $900 billion before Corona and now over $3 trillion with Corona. And then he said he would get rid of the national debt, the $19 trillion in national debt over a couple of terms. And all he's done is add to the national debt. $4 trillion added before Corona, $7 trillion with Corona. Okay, you say that's wonky stuff. What about jobs and wages? Well, on jobs, what Donald Trump promised was 25 million new jobs in a decade. That works out to 10 million jobs in his first four-year term. He didn't reach that, but he did manage to oversee the creation of 6.8 million jobs and bring the unemployment rate down to its lowest level in 50 years, 3.5%. But you've got to remember, he inherited a moving, growing economy from Barack Obama, who had brought the unemployment rate down from 10% to 4.7%. And Barack Obama, in his last 3 years, produced more than 8 million jobs, much better than Trump did in his first 3 years. As far as those manufacturing jobs, he was going to bring back 7.7 million of them. He got less than 10%, maybe closer to 5%. Said he was going to put coal miners back to work. Coal mining employment has continued to go down. But what did go up was wages. You could see an improvement in wages, mostly on paper, because it was up about 3% per year, but almost all of that was eaten up by rising prices by inflation. The real gain, economists reckon, was about 0.5% during the Trump era. And worse, fringe benefits went down. And so net, workers were worse off at the end of 3 years of Trump, let alone Corona, than they were at the end of Obama. And then comes that big $1.5 trillion tax cut. Now, he said, as he was selling that to the public, that the average family would get a bump up in wages of $4,000 a year. Remember that? And that was supposed to be because he was cutting corporate taxes. Well, that never happened. Tax cuts did. About 2/3 of Americans got tax cuts averaging about $1,000 per family. 10% had to pay more. But listen to the arithmetic. The top 1% got 17% of the whole thing. The top 20% got 60%. That means the whole bottom 80% had much less. That's the bottom line. A big tilt. He increased economic inequality in this country. In fact, economists say that after the Trump tax cuts, believe it or not, for the first time in 100 years, the tax rate on the average worker was higher than the tax rate on billionaires. That's the bottom line. Big payoff to the top, not such a good payoff to the middle. That's a tough sell in an economy that's limping along with 15 to 20 million people still unemployed.